Who owns Facebook content?
Is it the person who puts it there, or is it Facebook?
It's the person who puts it there, and they have rights to download it and delete it as they see fit.
What about, you mentioned the example of cookies at the House of Commons website. If I'm not a Facebook user and I go to the House of Commons website and the cookie puts me in touch with Facebook, even though I'm not a Facebook user and I haven't ticked any terms and conditions. So who owns that information?
So that is because I'm visiting the parliamentary website. There is assuming you are compliant with the laws in the EU regarding consent for use of cookies, which requires, you've seen the banner up there.
Yeah.
So you as the website are consenting me as the user the fact that you use cookies. Again, you use cookies from your own domain plus 6 other domains, actually much more than 6 other domains, but it boils down to 6 companies. And so, the user doesn't go get consent from each one of these other 6 companies. They go get consent from you that you are using cookies, and that's what controls the interaction between the user and your site.
So who owns the information that Facebook hold that I have visited the House of Commons website?
Again, this isn't, if you are not a Facebook user, this is not personally identifiable information.
No, I didn't ask that. It's information though, isn't it?
It's information about a machine, about a browser.
It's information about an individual. It's an unidentified individual, but it's information about an individual. So who owns that information?
Respectfully, I disagree, because it's very common for people to share phones, share browsers. Multiple people will use the same device to visit a site. If 2 different people use that same device to visit that site, I don't know the difference between them. I just know that this browser visited it at that time.
But forgive me, Mr. Schroepfer, it's a piece of information that Facebook hold about a contact that was made, even though the person who made the contact may not be a Facebook user. That's correct, isn't it?
It's a piece of information. I mean, literally, technically, there's a thing called a cookie on the browser, which identifies the browser.
So
for example, if you...
I just come back to the question, who owns it?
I think in that case, we're controlling the logs. I don't know the rules.
So Facebook own it?
I don't know the legalities of who owns that piece of information, but again, it's not personally identifiable to you. This is common practice on how a lot of websites, every website you visit gets a log of visitation.
Facebook own it, that information, even though I, as the source of the information, may not have a relationship with Facebook.
I think there's 2 things here that I just, again, want to clarify is I don't know that it's you. You can clear your cookies. Someone else can use the browser. The only thing I know is this browser visited this site at this time. It's not associated with any personally identifiable information. So even if I wanted to ask you to delete that data, I wouldn't know how to know it was yours. We would have to know about you in order to do it, at which point we've associated it with you. So that's the challenge. And this is, again, how every website on the web and every analytics product that's providing this information about who visits the website works.
Is that information of value?
I discussed before of a couple of uses of it. One of them is security, so we can tell the difference between this browser has been here a couple of times before and it's brand new. I've never seen it, so we may have our shields up a bit more. And then again, it's a service to the website if they choose to include our code that we could do things like say we've seen 3 different browsers or 3 different phones visit this article and 6 visit this article.
Can I just ask you to give me a yes or no answer to this question? Is that information of value to Facebook?
Again, these are complicated issues, so I want to make sure I'm being very clear. We use it as a free service to websites because protection is such an interest.
It's a very straightforward question.
For security purposes, absolutely. I think if you made us turn this off, this would be devastating for our ability to detect fake accounts.
Can I ask you about an answer that you gave me to a question earlier on? Did Facebook pass user information to Alexander Kogan or Cambridge Analytica?
I'm sorry, don't actually...
Earlier on, I asked you about Cambridge Analytica, and I asked you about the fact that they certified that they had deleted data. Do you remember that in 2015? So, did Facebook ever transfer user data to Cambridge Analytica?
To my knowledge, what happened? To my knowledge, no. What's happened here is Mr. Kogan had an app, or GSR had an app. It got access to information by using the platform, and then he transferred the data to Cambridge Analytica.
Can I just ask you, did Facebook transfer information to Mr. Kogan?
Mr. Kogan was an app developer, installed an app on the platform, and that app got access.
I would really like a straightforward answer to the question. Did Facebook transfer information to Alexander Kogan?
Again, I feel like you're asking a very specific question, so I want to make sure that I'm getting the heart of what you're trying to find. As a result of Mr. Kogan running an app on the platform, that app, when users use that app, had Facebook user information in it, which Mr. Kogan would have on his servers. So that information was transferred from one party to another as part of using that application on the platform.
So he extracted information from Facebook. Is that a way of describing it?
I think it's a way of how apps work on any platform, which is they get access to information in order to serve the user.
But you were unhappy about that, and that was why you asked him to delete it.
No, I want to be clear. We are unhappy about the fact that what we designed the platform for is to use information to build great products. And if you want to build a social game that other people want to play with, you need the right information for that. The thing we objected to that was clearly against the terms of service is using the information for one purpose, which is I want to get people to install this app, and then taking that data and reselling it or giving it to another party for a different purpose. That we think is something consumers obviously object to. It's clearly against our policies. That is the rub of why we are here today, is making sure this data isn't used in ways that it's not intended for.
Mr. Schroepfer, I'm going to give you some evidence that we heard at an earlier hearing from Facebook, okay? I just want you to see it.
I'll get up, sir. Thank you.
You know that we had evidence from Facebook in Washington, D.C. in February. Did you know that we had evidence from Facebook in Washington, D.C. in February?
Yes.
Have you read that evidence?
I'm looking at it now. I have not.
You haven't read the evidence that your company gave this committee in Washington, D.C.? You haven't read it before today?
I'm sorry, I'm reading evidence from something else that's not Washington, D.C., so I'm trying to...
I'm going to take you through the evidence very closely.
Great.
Have you read the evidence previously?
Which evidence are we referring to?
The evidence that Facebook gave to this committee in Washington, D.C.
I'm sorry, you mean the U.S. committee in the U.S. Congress?
We had a meeting with Monica Bickert and with Simon Milner. They gave evidence to this committee in a session in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Did you know that?
I'm sorry, I'm being confused because Washington, D.C., I thought you might have been talking about the congressional testimony. So
No,
that's
I'm
my
talking about evidence to this committee in Washington, D.C. Did you know that evidence had been given?
Yes.
Have you read that evidence before
I've read
today?
some of it. I've read some
before
of it.
today.
I've read.
Right. So, do you know Simon Milner?
Yes.
What is his position?
He has recently changed positions, but I know that he has been involved in policy issues here in the EU.
Now, we asked about Cambridge Analytica. We asked Mr. Milner. My colleague, Mr. Matheson, asked him a question. I'm going to read.
Yes.
It's a question 447. Mr. Matheson asks, have you ever passed any user information over to Cambridge Analytica or any of its associated companies? Simon Milner's reply was no. Mr. Matheson then went on, but they do hold a large chunk of Facebook's user data, don't they? Simon Milner, no. They may have lots of data, but it will not be Facebook user data. It may be data about people who are on Facebook that they have gathered themselves, but it is not data that we have provided. Mr. Matheson then went on, how will they have gathered that data from users on Facebook? And Mr. Milner said, there can be all kinds of things that these organisations do. I think what data they have would be a good question to ask them rather than us. We have no insight on that. Would you like to comment on that exchange?
What would you like to know, sir?
Well, do you agree with what Mr. Milner said?
Well, we learned subsequent to this. The challenge here again is that we did not give data to Cambridge Analytica. Mr. Kogan ran an app on the platform. That app got data. He, again, as we talked about in December of 2015, we learned he may have transferred that to Cambridge Analytica. And the reason we have reopened all of this is that, as you all have learned and we have learned last month, there's allegations that that data still existed at Cambridge Analytica.
Okay, can I just stop you there? In November of 2015, Facebook knew and were concerned about Cambridge Analytica. And you had an agreement of sorts that you've referred to today with both Cambridge Analytica and Mr. Kogan for them to delete data. Now, all of that information was known to Facebook in February of this year, wasn't it?
The fact that that happened in December 15th? Sure.
So why was that none of that information given to this committee?
I'm not sure exactly. As I read Simon's statement again, at the time it was accurate because we didn't think Cambridge Analytica had data and we had not given them data. So the problem that has come up since then is the idea that they still retain data, which again, to this day, I still not have had eyes on a single piece of data there. So I don't know for sure, but we're assuming everything is true and they do have the data.
Mr.
And that's the problem we have today.
You were very well aware, or Facebook was very well aware in December of 2015 that there had been this, and I'm going to call it a data breach, which precipitated action on your part. So why did you not tell this committee about that when we heard evidence from you in February?
Again, as I'm reading these questions, they are a question of whether we gave them data or they have data. The answer to both of those questions, the first one, we to this date haven't given them data. And at the time, we again had legal certifications that they did not have that data anymore. So,
Mr. Schroepfer, but to date, you have answered questions in a straightforward manner. But I have to say, my colleague Mr. Matheson said, how will they have gathered that data from users on Facebook? And the response is there can be all kinds of things that these organisations do. Well, you had very specific knowledge as a business, as a company, Facebook, in February, of what had happened in this case. Why didn't you tell this committee about it?
I don't know why he didn't elaborate on that particular point. I don't even know if he at the time knew all of the details of this. You know, a lot of this stuff has come to light in sharp relief for us in the last month. Again, my goal here,
Mr. Schroepfer,
I'm trying to give you the best information I have. Why someone said something at a prior,
Okay. Can you tell us, does Mr. Milner, does he answer to you within Facebook?
I don't believe so.
Who does he answer to?
I believe he reports up through our chief operating officer.
Do you think you told us the truth?
I know Mr. Milner to be an honest person, so I'm guessing he was telling you the best of his knowledge at the time.
Do you think that Mr. Milner should have told us about, for example, the agreement between Cambridge Analytica and Facebook when he gave evidence to us, when we raised Cambridge Analytica with it?
I think we're trying to do the best we can to give all the information.
I don't think
again.
you are, Mr. Schroepfer.
Sir,
because I don't make this allegation lightly. I think Facebook concealed the truth from us in February.
I'm again trying to give you all the information I have now. I don't know whether he was even.
Your business, your Facebook had all of the information that you've given us today in February about the agreement with Cambridge Analytica, didn't it?
We had tremendously more information about this entire situation now than
you had the information about the agreement with Cambridge Analytica that you made in December of 2015.
And again, I don't know whether he was specifically informed of that.
Okay.
So I'm guessing he didn't actually know, but I don't know.
You're guessing he didn't know?
I don't know. I haven't spoken to him about it.
Who knows?
Who knows what, sir?
Who knows about what the position was with Cambridge Analytica in February of this year? Who was in charge of this?
I don't know all of the names of the people who knew that specific information. at the time.
We are a parliamentary committee. We went to Washington for evidence, and we raised the issue of Cambridge Analytica. And Facebook concealed evidence to us as an organisation on that day. Isn't that the truth?
I think the root of what you're getting at, I completely understand, is you have a right to get all of the data you need at every point in time. Again, I don't know what happened here. I am doing my best to give you all the data you need today.
You are doing your best, but the buck doesn't stop with you, does it? Who has the buck stop?
Stops with Mark.
Stops with Mark. Will Mark answer these questions?
I don't know, but
Does he know? When did he first know about Cambridge Analytica?
I don't know the answers to those
Have you
questions.
discussed Cambridge Analytica with Mark Zuckerberg?
Over the last few months, these topics are pretty much all we discuss.
Did you talk to Mark Zuckerberg about the agreement between Cambridge Analytica and Facebook that was reached at the end of 2015? Have you discussed that with him?
No, I'm not sure I was aware of it at the time.
When did you first find out about it?
Within the last month.
Why won't Mr. Zuckerberg come to us and answer the questions?
I understand he's been getting requests from all over the world to come talk about this. He is trying to dedicate his time in the office to solve these problems, to get to the heart of it. He asked me to come. I'm one of the senior members of the leadership team. I'm trying to do my best to answer the questions. We thought, particularly since you wanted to go into fake news and to understand the details of this, that I could cover the technical details, overlap between the different audiences, how it may have affected the ad spend. My goal was to give you much more detailed information than you previously have, not comment on.
Okay. What we want is the truth.
I understand that.
We didn't get the truth in February.
Again, I think he told you the best information he had at the time, but notwithstanding.
Well, that's not good enough, because we are a parliamentary committee, we are elected individuals, and there are millions of our constituents who are concerned about this as an issue. So, Mr. Zuckerberg, I remember him giving an interview back in 2009 to the BBC. He was prepared to talk to them. Don't you think it would be the right thing to do for him to come explain to us why someone representing Facebook didn't tell us the full truth in February?
Again, I think our goal is to get you all the data you need in extensive detail, and that's why my written statement last night, additional information I provided to multiple commissions here in the UK, and the time I'm spending here today, I will do my best, sir, to give you all the current information I have at this point in time, and I will do my best in the future to make sure that as things change, you get the information. I completely understand and agree with your assertion of needing to get to the truth and the heart of these matters. I have no quarrel with that.
So when we speak to Facebook employees, we want to be told the full truth.
I understand that.
We weren't told the full truth in February, were we?
I again don't know what he knew or didn't know, and I know.
Well, we weren't told about this agreement.
Again, I'm not sure that he knew about it. I don't know the specifics of it, so I do know what I know now, and I will do my best to tell you everything I know about these topics. That's the best I can do.
You have a head of integrity in Facebook.
Community integrity. I misspoke, sir. The idea is to understand that community standards, security, the different issues of content on the platform.
Mr. Schroepfer, I remain to be convinced that your company has integrity after what they said to us in February. Does your company have integrity?
I believe we do, sir. As I said earlier, I personally try to put my heart into building products that are good for people. I believe deeply in our mission and our products and the good they can do in the world. It hurts when we make mistakes. It hurts when people abuse our platform. We are human and make mistakes. I wouldn't want to work at a company that I didn't believe had integrity. I've worked with Mark and Cheryl for 10 years now. It's the longest stint in my professional career. I understand your concerns. I understand the skepticism. It's right to have that appropriate level of skepticism is your job. The best I can do at this point, sir, is provide you with detailed information on all of these things and commit that I will work with you and others to the best of my ability to both, most importantly, prevent any of these things from happening in the first place, And secondly, as we understand the issues here, to share them openly with you, the Electoral Commission, and the ICO.
When did you first discover that the existence of the agreement? You said within the last month.
That's when I became aware of it.
Would you ask Mr. Zuckerberg to come and give evidence to us to explain why his company did not give full disclosure to a parliamentary committee in February?
I will certainly discuss everything that happened here today with Mr. Zuckerberg when I return.